Megan Walsh has been sentenced to 5 years in prison after being found guilty of sexually abusing Will Driscoll. The storyline began last year when Will arrived in Weatherfield alongside his family after they took over ownership of the Rover's return. At first, Megan told Eva Price and Ben Driscoll that she had discovered Will asleep inside some changing rooms before giving him a lift back to the cobbles. However, viewers soon learned that the pair were secretly involved in a hidden relationship. As the story developed, Megan manipulated Will into keeping their relationship a secret. Believing she genuinely cared about him, Will failed to realize that he was actually the victim of grooming and sexual abuse. Teenager Sam Blakeman was the first person to become suspicious of Megan's behavior. He confronted Will and warned him that Megan was taking advantage of him, but Will refused to believe the accusations and stood firmly by his teacher. Even so, Sam refused to let the matter rest. Certain that something was seriously wrong, he continued trying to expose the truth, only to become the target of Megan's intimidation whenever he challenged her. The emotional pressure eventually became too much for Sam. His confidence was shattered, and the stress caused him to collapse before being rushed to hospital. After the incident, Sam finally confided in Leanne Battersby and revealed everything he knew about Megan. Although the allegations were serious, police were unable to arrest her immediately because there was not enough evidence to prove an inappropriate relationship had taken place. Everything changed when Will learned that Tim Metcalfe had experienced a similar ordeal during his youth. Hearing Tim's story gave Will the strength to recognize what had happened to him and report Megan to the authorities. This week, the Driscoll family attended court as Megan faced trial over the allegations. The case was anything but straightforward. Megan's hopes of escaping conviction improved when Will broke down in court and falsely claimed that he had invented the story about their sexual relationship. Ben Driscoll also risked damaging the prosecution's case. During Megan's testimony, he lost his temper and was removed from the courtroom, while Will's earlier false statement made it appear as though the family's accusations had been fabricated. Fortunately, the judge allowed Will to return to the witness stand. Admitting that he had previously lied under oath, Will finally revealed the truth and confirmed that Megan had sexually abused him. In today's episode, everyone affected by Megan's actions gathered in court once again after the jury announced that it had reached a verdict. The jury found Megan guilty on every charge, and the judge sentenced her to 5 years behind bars, finally bringing a painful chapter to an end for Will, his family, and everyone else affected by her crimes. Abby Webster is about to face every parent's worst fear when her young son Alfie falls seriously ill because of the dangerous conditions in their rented flat. Following the collapse of her relationship with Kevin Webster, Abby has been living in an apartment on the precinct while trying to rebuild her life. Recently, she has been battling an ongoing problem with her rental home. Damp has spread throughout the property, leaving an unpleasant smell that has even soaked into her clothes, while her landlord continues to ignore requests for repairs. In tonight's episode, Abby once again tried to contact her landlord, hoping to get the issue resolved before the situation became even worse. Leanne Battersby overheard the conversation and sympathized with Abby, wishing her luck in getting the repairs carried out. Elsewhere, Leanne was considering whether to forgive Idris Nazir after his recent mistake. Earlier in the week, he secretly silenced a phone call from Toya Battersby because he wanted more time alone with Leanne, unaware that Toya had been calling to remind her about visiting Sam Blakeman at the mental health unit. After thinking things over, Leanne decided to give Idris another opportunity. Soon afterwards, Abby arrived to collect a takeaway while making yet another frustrated phone call to her landlord. To her complete surprise, Idris's phone began ringing, revealing that he was the owner of the flat she had been desperately trying to reach. Later that evening, Abby tucked Alfie into bed and became increasingly concerned about his persistent cough, deciding that she would arrange a doctor's appointment as soon as possible. What Abby doesn't realize is that thick black mold has been growing underneath Alfie's bed for some time. The dangerous mold is a direct result of the poor condition of the property and will soon leave Alfie so unwell that he has to be rushed to A&E. Doctors later warn Abby that remaining in the flat would put Alfie's health at even greater risk and advise her to move out immediately. With nowhere else to turn, she returns to Kevin's home with her son. Meanwhile, Idris and Brody Michaelis desperately try to deal with the worsening damp problem before more damage is uncovered. At the same time, Leanne and Alia Nazir suspect that the previous owner may have knowingly sold Idris a property already affected by severe damp. Devastated by what has happened to Alfie, Abby becomes determined to make someone answer for her son's suffering. Sally Webster encourages her to speak with Adam Barlow about taking legal action, but whether Abby succeeds in getting justice remains to be seen. New details have emerged about Tyrone Dobbs' emotional reaction when he finally comes face to face with the biological father he has never known. Next week on Coronation Street, Tyrone receives an unexpected surprise after his daughters, Hope and Ruby, secretly use his DNA to locate his long-lost father. Ross arrives in Weatherfield as part of Cassie Plummer's upcoming exit storyline, setting the stage for dramatic scenes. While his return is likely to create problems for Cassie, Tyrone is also left stunned by the unexpected reunion. Tyrone is invited to the bistro by Hope and Ruby, believing they have arranged an ordinary surprise for him. Instead, he is completely blindsided when he discovers they have tracked down his biological father without telling him beforehand. Alan Halsall explained that Tyrone never imagined something like this could happen and described the moment as a huge emotional shock. According to the actor, Tyrone's first instinct is to return home and ask Fizz and the girls why they made such a life-changing decision on his behalf. At first, Tyrone has no interest in building a relationship with Ross. He feels he has managed perfectly well without a father throughout his life and doesn't believe he needs one now. Alan also revealed that Cassie reacts nervously to Ross's arrival because she has been worried that the lies she has kept hidden for so long may finally come to light. Although Ross is a complete stranger, Tyrone gradually becomes curious about the man who shares his blood. He decides the least he can do is spend some time talking to him and find out what kind of person he really is. As their conversations continue, Tyrone begins to realize that Hope and Ruby only wanted to do something kind for him. Fizz also encourages him to keep an open mind and give Ross a fair chance. Even then, Tyrone only intends to satisfy his curiosity rather than create a lasting bond. His goal is simply to learn more about the missing part of his family history before moving on with his life. Despite his initial reluctance, Tyrone agrees to spend more time with Ross, including a game of golf, and slowly starts to warm to him. The more they get to know one another, the more Tyrone begins to see Ross as someone he could eventually have a genuine father-son relationship with. He comes across as a calm and easygoing man, leaving Tyrone wondering whether they could have shared many good moments together if circumstances had been different. As Ross explains why he was absent from Tyrone's childhood, Tyrone starts to understand the reasons behind their years apart and begins viewing the situation from a different perspective. However, Ross's return may not be entirely positive. Previous hints have suggested that his darker side could soon emerge, especially considering his troubled history with Cassie. Coronation Street continues to air on weeknights at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX.